Hello everyone, this is Paul from Bookmark Self-Publishing, and today we are going to talk about how to lay out a book cover for your self-published book. This is a common question we get asked lots, and it's really not that difficult after you've done your first cover, so let's get into this. So, first place to start is to find out what dimensions your book cover is going to be. What we have here up on the screen is a layout of your typical one-piece book cover. Most book covers are one piece, and you do lay out the file as one piece and you send it to the printer as one piece. Here you have the back cover, which is always on the left hand side, the spine, and the front cover. Around here you have the trim edge, which is just that, it's where the printer will trim your cover at. And around the outside you have the bleed. Now, what is bleed? Well, bleed is what the printer uses to give you edgeless printing. So if you were to have an image, say a flower up here in this corner, you want it printed to the edge, you would put it over a bit on the outside of the trim edge, so when it's trimmed off, it does give an edgeless effect to your cover. Bleed is usually 1/8 of an inch, and it could be up to 1/4 of an inch depending on the printer. Now that you've seen the outline of the book cover, you probably realize that you need to somehow calculate the width and height. So, giving you a little example here to help out with that. So let's start with width. Width equals bleed, so that's going to be your left-hand side bleed, plus the width of the back cover, plus the spine, plus the front cover, plus your right-hand bleed. So below, providing an example, this will be for a standard 6x9 book. Of course, you'd have to change this to whatever variables are for your book. So we went on left-hand side of bleed 0.25 of an inch. So a 1/4 inch there. Now, most printers only require 1/8 of an inch, but if you don't know who you're printing with, go with a 1/4 inch, and more is better than less. Of course, we have a width of 6 inches on the back cover. We have a spine of 1 inch. Now, spine. This is a little bit of a complicated area to get into. Spine, the width of the spine of the book depends on how many pages you have in the book. And this also depends on the size of the pages. So what you want to do is you want to find out from your printer just what paper he's planning to use in your book and the thickness of that paper. Once you know that, well, you simply multiply the thickness of the paper by the amount of pages you have, and you will be able to get your spine size. In the notes here, I will provide a link to our site to an article which will lay out your typical thicknesses. That should be good enough to give you for you to set up a draft copy of your cover, but make sure you always check with the printer to find out what the exact thickness of the printer, of what the paper is, before you send them the finished file. So we are going to move on to the front cover, which again is 6, and then to the right hand side bleed. Alright, so adding all those together, that gives us 13.5. So this shows us on a 6x9 book that the width is going to be 13.5. Now let's go look at height. Height is a little bit easier to calculate. It's simply bleed plus cover height plus bleed. So on a 6x9 example, height is going to be equal to your bottom bleed, which is again, bleed's going to stay constant all the way around at a 1/4 inch. 9 inches, simply because you're 6x9 book, so your cover is going to be 9 high. And you're then going to have another 1/4 inch bleed at the top, so there's another 0.25, and that equals 9.5. So on 6x9 books with a spine of 1 inch, you are going to have a layout size of 13.5 by 9.5. Now that you know the dimensions of your book cover, you need to set up those dimensions in a layout program. Here on the screen we have some typical ones. Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, I'm sure everyone's heard of that. Corel Draw, and down here we have one with a bizarre name of GIMP. GIMP is a free open source alternative, so for those of you who don't want to spend a lot of money on a layout program, give GIMP a try. For most uses, it's pretty good, and it should give you a professional looking cover. It just takes a little bit to get used to. I like to use Adobe Photoshop to lay out my book covers. You can use whatever program you like. We're going to do this example with Adobe Photoshop, and other programs should be very similar to set up. So first thing you want to do is go to File, New, and here you want to enter the size of the cover layout that we calculated before. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to want to set this to inches or to whatever measurement that you use. If you're in the rest of the world, it's going to be metric, so centimeters, and you probably can change it to millimeters too if you need to. So we know our width from the previous example is 13.5, and our height is 9.5. Now, here's an important thing you do need to know, and that is the color mode. You want to use CMYK, and anything that you print should be set to CMYK. Most programs will default to RGB, which is the color mode your screen uses, and the little inkjet printer you have sitting on the side of your computer uses. But any professional print always uses the CMYK spectrum, so use that, and your colors on your screen will match what your printer will print. If you end up using this, it will usually probably be pretty close, but you won't get an exact match, and you may get your cover back and look at it and go, oh well, these colors are off, and why? Well, most times it is because of the color mode settings, so make sure it is set to CMYK. And another thing you do need to know is resolution, and this is pixels per square inch. Most programs will be defaulted to 72, which is the pixels per inch for web graphics. So what you want to do for print is set it to at least 300. Now 300 is pretty standard for most printers, but you should check with your printer to see what they like. So once you've set up your new Photoshop file, you'll get something like this. What I like to do is to first make sure rulers are turned on, and then grab the edges here and set up some guides. So first one you always want to put is right in the middle, so you know where your middle is. And from there, since we know our spine is 1 inch, we put one on ½ inch from the middle on both sides. So that gives us the area for our spine to work in. Then we want to set up our bleed. Our bleed will be 1/4 inch all the way around. So let's set that up all the way around. And like so. Now that we have that, we have our working areas. Here's our bleed all the way around. Here's our back cover, our spine area, and our front cover. So from there you can start bringing in your images and start laying out your book. So those are the basics to laying out your book cover. For those of you who want more information, I will provide a link in the video description area below that will send you to our site where you can read a full article on everything we went over today, including links to the software that we recommend, color management, cover bleed, and we even give you some spine calculations, so you have something to use to calculate the width spine in your cover. We provide the image that we showed you earlier in the video, and we also have some free book cover templates available. So simply click here and you can pick them up in 3 common sizes. That's 8.5 by 5.5, 6 by 9, and 8.5 by 11. And these are for Photoshop, but they should open in most common image editing programs. Alright, so thank you everyone, and please subscribe to our channel, and we'll have more self-publishing how-tos for you in the future. Bye-bye.